Cold Case, An Angelica Dale Mystery by P.K. Armstrong. Chapter 12. The only car in front of the house, a two-door hybrid, told me that Jacob was the only Roland home. He came down the stairs as I entered the foyer. Hi. Jacob's greeting seemed normal at first, until I watched his body language as he descended the stairs. There was trepidation in his eyes, and he held on to the wood railing for dear life. I recognized the look immediately. Violet had that look when she had been naughty. "Hi, Jacob," I said slowly, and when he stopped before me at the bottom of the stairs, "What have you done?" The sheepish smile Jacob flashed at me was so reminiscent of Christopher, my breath caught. He shrugged. "Nothing bad." He hesitated. "Jacob," I warned. "So I was looking at your board and saw the drawing of the scene." "And?" "That software they used was outdated. There is some great CGI software we use at the studio that I thought would give you a better rendering, so I—" His voice faded away, and for the first time I noted he had a thumb drive in his hand. "Can I show you? Or—" He paused again, his eyes wide. "You could pretend this conversation never happened." I shook my head and gave him my sternest look, which didn't amount to much considering I was also trying to suppress a smile. "Jacob, I don't want anyone knowing I'm taking another look at this case. At least not yet." He shook his head vigorously. "I didn't show it to anyone. I got home early after a staff meeting and wandered into the office while my snack was in the microwave." I sighed, and he gave me a grin, knowing he had me wrapped around his little finger. He was such a cutie. "All right, show me what you've got." He did a little dance, grabbed my hand, and practically dragged me down the hallway through the kitchen and into the little office. "Computer," he said, motioning to my bag. I put my bag on the counter and took out my laptop. I put it on the desk, unlocked it, and stepped back. After downloading software to view the file, he opened his work, and the Aspen Club before the fire came alive. "You can navigate through the club," he said with a triumphant look. "Here, let me show you." He demonstrated how to move backward, forward, and side to side. "Wow, this is nice." I took control of the mouse and entered the club. The layout wasn't extraordinary. The building was in total about 8,600 square feet. The main doors opened into a small waiting area with only a podium where someone would have stood checking IDs. This wasn't a restaurant. No need for seating while patrons waited for their parties, but basically a staging area. More popular venues properly screened customers before they even made it inside, but from what Stormy told me, Aspen wasn't that busy yet. There was another set of doors, and after entering them, the patrons could move to the right or the left to stand at tables placed around the dance floor. The dance floor could be accessed by going straight after entering the double doors and descending 4 steps, or by using another set of steps on the opposite side of the dance floor, which was directly across the bar, which ran along the back wall. In theory, it was a pretty nice setup, but I could imagine if the fire had taken place during business hours, the sunken dance floor would have been a death trap for a busy club full of drunk partiers. There were 2 fire exits, one in the northeast corner and another on the opposite side of the building, to the right of the bar near a hallway that led to the office. I looked up at Jacob, who was practically glowing with creativity. I smiled. "Very impressive, Jacob." Jacob grinned. "Oh, I'm not done. Watch this." He leaned forward, hit Control L, and an overlay covered the bar. I took in a sharp breath and my mouth dropped open. The overlay was the scene after the fire. "You've got to be kidding me." "Nope. You can move through the fire scene as well. It is probably not accurate because the only pictures you had were newspaper photos and the few photos that the museum had. They didn't show a lot of detail. So if I can get the crime scene photos, you can input them? Sure. He smiled at me, and I smiled back. Suddenly, an idea came to me. I think I may know where I can get more photos. I checked my watch. But first, I want to call Violet and see if she is behaving. Hello, my love. How are you liking it at Jerry and Francine's? Hi. I smiled at her childish sigh. Fine. Francine cooks good. I laughed. Violet seemed to be going through some type of phase and judged every event on how good the food tasted. So your schoolwork is going okay? Yep, I'm going to ask Detective Christopher to help me with my math tomorrow. It's not due until Friday. That's a good idea. Any problems? The sigh came again and I chuckled. Violet, what teacher are you trying to have arrested? Francine and Jerry told you? A little growl came through the phone and I could picture her rolling her eyes. My English teacher, Mrs. Lundy. We have a paper to write about family, and she won't let me write about you or Detective Christopher or Jerry or even Francine. Why not? I asked. Because she said, I heard her take a breath and could tell she was getting emotional. What did she say, Violet? She said you guys aren't my family. I heard a little tremor in her voice. But you are. You are my family. Violet began to cry. My heart was breaking, not only at her hurt, but the fact that I wasn't there to deal with it. Violet, you are so right. We are all family. I paused, knowing I had to tread carefully. Violet did not suffer fools, and it was often difficult to get her to empathize with others. Add to it, her real parents were serving sentences in county jail, and she was about to turn 15. Saying she could be a little emotional was a bit of an understatement. Violet was sniveling and trying to take deep breaths. Violet, do you know why she said that? What were her exact words? I don't know, she said loudly. Violet, calm down and take a few breaths. The phone was silent except for Violet sniffling and breathing. When she was calmer, I encouraged, try again. She said she knew I didn't live with my family, and maybe I could write about my favorite place I learned about in a book and that I would like to visit one day. She took a deep, shaky breath. So, she didn't really tell you that you couldn't write about us, did she? I paused, waiting for a possible explosion of emotion. It didn't come. Well, no, Violet mumbled. Is this Mrs. Lundy usually pretty nice? Violet paused and thought. Um, actually, yeah. I hate writing, but not so much in her class. She makes it fun. We read plays and write our own short stories and everything. So maybe she was worried that since you don't live with your birth family, that this assignment might be hard or make you feel bad, and she wanted to give you some other options? Violet sighed heavily. The phone went quiet. Violet, are you still there? What do you think about what I just asked you? I'm thinking maybe you are right, but I don't want to admit it. I laughed. Sometimes when we feel strongly about something, it makes our thoughts fuzzy. We jump to wrong conclusions because we are not thinking straight. I could be right. Violet wasn't quite ready to let go of her anger. You are correct. But isn't it better to just assume the more positive reason behind her words? It will keep you from being angry and you avoid making stupid choices, like trying to have her arrested. I knew the smile on my face would soften the serious tone. Violet sighed differently this time. It was her sigh of defeat. Okay, you're right. She has never been mean, so I can probably assume she wasn't being mean this time. She paused. You know I wouldn't have got her arrested, right? I laughed harder. I know. Christopher isn't crazy. He wouldn't risk his job to have your teacher arrested just because you were angry with her, my love. Violet laughed too. I don't know. Detective Christopher loves me. He might have helped me out. So I think that it would be okay for you to write about us since we are your family. Do you agree? Yes, I will start tonight. We are supposed to show her our rough drafts next week. She paused and then whispered, I miss you. I was glad I was curled up in a chair in my room where Christopher's family couldn't see me upset. I was unsuccessful at keeping it out of my voice, however. I miss you too.
If it makes you sad to be away, come back.
Violet reasoned. It does make me sad, but Sandy's friend really needs my help. She doesn't have family like us and needs someone to help her. But missing you makes me want to work faster. I heard Sandy call out dinner was ready. I've got to go. I will call tomorrow during game night, okay? Okay, love you. Love you too.